You're watching News Now with Raychel Harvey-Jones.
Welcome back to News Now and welcome to Inside Crime. This is the second part of a series of interviews looking at law enforcement priorities across the tri-state area. After serving as the acting chief of police for the Frederick Police Department, Thomas Ledwell was promoted to chief in January of 2013. So what did the first year hold in store for Ledwell? With policing now being a priority for the newly appointed alderman in Frederick, Ledwell discussed his hopes for the budget with regards to potentially adding additional officers.
We're currently budgeted to have 141 sworn, and we currently have 141 sworn. Now, 9 of those officers are in the police academy, still as student officers, and then we have a small number of officers, we're lucky in that regards, who are out for serious medical issues or discipline issues. So, but overall our budgeted number matches what we actually have, which is 141.
So when they talk about that's their focus, are they planning to add the number of officers that you're budgeted for, or?
Well, we shall see. We are currently going into the preliminary stages of the budget process right now. As an agency, we just undertook a 2-day work session to work on a formal 5-year strategic plan. And one of the main focuses of our strategic plan is, of course, staffing and projecting staffing into the future. Where that'll end up when it goes in front of the elected officials is yet to be determined. But what we like to do is we like to look at the projections of the population, projected calls for service based on history and where we're headed with that. Also annexations. We've got certain areas within Frederick City that have been built up significantly. One example would be the Route 26 corridor up around where Wegmans is. And also the level of service and the types of services that we provide as an agency. I know the Frederick Police Department's expectations by the community are pretty high as far as what we provide. We're not only just answering calls for service and investigating crimes, but we're also attending community meetings. We do prevention and outreach. We have Police Activities League Center. We do gang resistance education training within the elementary schools, and a number of other things that are expected of us. So we take all this together as a conglomerate, and then we try to come up with what we would believe to be the best staffing level.
There's been a little bit of a change with the city board of directors. Some aldermen have left, some remain in place, some new people coming on board. Many have criticized the new people coming on board as, just being residents and not having that much experience. How do you think that will impact your department?
I don't know. I mean, I'm always positive going into the new elected officials. I mean, I like to give everybody a chance, just like we would expect from the opposite. So I'm excited, optimistic. I think what we do is we provide the best information to our elected officials that we can, and then we rely on them to come to a decision.
You've been part of the police structure here for a long time. You only look 25, and you've been in policing for 21 years. Obviously, it's changed enormously, but what do you think the biggest challenges your officers face today?
Well, there's a lot more to policing than when I came on. We look for different things in police officers than traditionally occurred 25, 30 years ago. You have to be able to operate computer systems and software. You have to be very good at interacting with people, de-escalating. We've talked before about recognizing and identifying special populations in crisis, and you have to have the ability to do that and to create a successful resolution, the ability to testify in court, the ability to type up a succinct yet comprehensive incident report and investigate crimes. And then, of course, the traditional aspects of self-defense, using the firearm, driving under severe conditions are also. So these are all things that a police officer in 2013 has to be able to do. So it's a challenge. And then I think there's different expectations of us as a profession now than there was 25, 30 years ago. We're expected to not only do police work, but we're expected to also attach people to resources and look at larger social issues, and that's part of the problem-solving process that we undertake now, which I think goes far beyond what was expected 25, 30 years ago. So it's always a challenge, and then it's a challenge for me to make sure that I provide a clear direction and mission for everybody in the agency. Everybody knows what's expected of them and what their job is, and and how they'll be rated in their performance.
So 2014, what's ahead? What are your initiatives and plans and goals for 2014?
Well, we've done a number of things. Part of our strategic planning process has identified major areas that we want to concentrate on. Staffing is always part of that, and the real trick in police staffing is to anticipate attrition and to get people hired within a short time frame of other people leaving. So it takes about a year to get somebody on the street from the time they put in their police application, because you have mandated state requirements for hiring a police officer. They have to go through a background, take a polygraph, psychological test, physical test, etc. So that all takes about 4 months. Then you have a 7-month police academy that somebody has to go through, and then there's 10 weeks of field training. So by the time we get somebody on the street that is self-sufficient, you're talking a year. So if we lose people, we're playing catch up, and that's been one of the issues. When a year ago we were pushing 20 officers below staffing levels, and we came up with a strategic calendar to figure out, okay, how do we need to get people hired here, and how do we stay up close to our authorized strength at all times? And that's been a specific strategy that we've undertaken. Yeah, what we try to do is the academy starts academically, and you start to take in the classroom setting everything that you need to know. I mean, there's a lot of things that we're expected and required to know. And then we start to build in some semi-realistic drills into the academic setting. And then we ultimately build up to scenario-based training that's more experiential. And by the time the student officer finishes the police academy, they're put into scenarios that they're required to look at, not only use of force, but crisis de-escalation, other factors that go with the self-defense, use of force aspect of it. And then they go into field training, and different agencies have different requirements for how long they do field training. Ours is 10 weeks. So during that 10-week process, the field trainee starts out just listening and watching their experienced officer do things. And then gradually the weight shifts. So by the end of field training, the student officer is doing everything, and the evaluator is watching them. So hopefully when the student officer is out on their own, they've got a significant amount of experience in real situations.
Big thanks to the Frederick Police Department for that interview. Tomorrow we'll feature our next Inside Crime feature. That'll be Inside Crime in Hagerstown with the Chief of Police, Mark Holtzman. Well, of course, stay with us here on Channel 6. Tomorrow promises to be a chilly one, so stay up to date with the weather at hmtv6.com. We'll leave you now with the traffic cams across the region. Stay safe, Washington County.